Hello, my name is Duke and I'm a maths and science tutor at Carfax UAE, and today I'm going to talk you through how to complete the square. Well, first of all, when do we complete the square? We do that when we have a quadratic of the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And when we complete the square, we're trying to get it into a form of y equals a, open bracket, x minus h, close bracket, all squared, plus k. And by completing the square, we can find out the turning point. The turning point could be the minimum or maximum, which has the coordinate h, k. We can also find out the line of symmetry of the quadratic, which would be x equals h. And using a quadratic, we can also, using the completing the square, we can also find out the x-intercepts by setting y equal to 0. I will be talking through two examples of completing the square. The first example is when you have the coefficient of x squared being equal to 1. So that's when a equals to 1. So the example I'm going to use is y equals x squared plus 6x minus 7. And when we complete the square, the first step is to put the brackets, put the squared, and put the x in its first position, like this. And what we're trying to find is the numbers for these two blanks right here that I underlined in red. Okay, how do you find out the first blank? Well, that would just be half of the coefficient of x, meaning half of the number in front of x. So the number in front of x is positive 6, so half of that would be positive 3. So that goes into the first blank. And then we need to subtract that value that we just calculated squared. So minus 3 squared. And the reason why we did this was by me completing the square here, that's the same as the first two terms of the quadratic above. If you multiply it, you'll see that it's the same. Okay? And then we need to bring down the minus 7 down. So when we complete this, when we simplify this, we have x plus 3 is all squared. Negative 3 squared is negative 9. Negative 7 is negative 16. So now we've completed the square, and from here we can find out the turning point. So first of all, is the turning point minimum maximum? Well, this is a quadratic. It's a positive quadratic, so it slopes like this. So the turning point would be a minimum. So the minimum would be, and recall from the first part of the video, it's negative 3, negative 16. So it's the negative 8, it's h and k. Okay, so it's the negative of the number that's inside the bracket with x, and then just the y value here on the outside. Okay, and the line of symmetry, well, line of symmetry is simply x equals minus 3. And so for this particular example, I will also find out the x-intercept. So that would enable us to draw the graph. So to find the x-intercept, we set y equal to 0. So 0 equals x plus 3 squared minus 16. And then we have x plus 3 is equal to, so I'm taking 16 to the side, take the square root, we have plus or minus 4. And then we take 3 to the other side, so we get two solutions. One is positive with the positive 4 and the other one with the negative 4. So if we take the positive 4, 4 minus 3 is 1. So that's the first x-intercept. And for the second x-intercept, it's negative 4, negative 3, so negative 7. Okay? So now that we have these three information, we can actually now draw the graph. So let's do that. So remember the x-intercepts were 1, 0, negative 7, 0. The minimum point was minus 3, minus 16. So let's put it roughly here. And also the y-intercept would be negative 7, because that's the c in the quadratic. When x equal to 0, you can find out what the y-intercept is, and that's negative 7. So then the graph looks something like this. So in our second example, I'm going to be looking at a quadratic where we have the coefficient of x squared not equal to 1. So the example I'm going to use here is y equals negative 2x squared negative 5x plus 7. In the first step, when you have a not equal to 1, we need to factorize out that term. So factorize out the coefficient. So in this case, the negative 2 is in front, so we factorize it out like this. So negative 2, open bracket, x squared plus 5 over 2x minus 7 over 2. Okay, and as you can see inside the bracket, that's very similar to what we've done in the first example. So let's just go through the same process. So the negative 2 outside, just keep it as it is. I'll introduce a big bracket to ensure that you're not making any sign errors. And the first step of completing the square, put the bracket, put the square, put the x, and then to find out the term next to the x would be half of the coefficient of x, so half of 5 over 2, which is 5 over 4. Positive 5 over 4. And then we subtract what we just calculated, so 5 over 4 all squared. And then bring down the negative 7 over 2 from above. Okay? And when we do this, we can simplify that whole fraction there after the bracket. Negative 5 over 4 all squared, negative 7 over 2 just evaluates to negative 81 over 6. Sorry, negative 81 over 16. Okay? And then the last step is to multiply out the negative 2 with every single term inside the bracket. So that will be negative 2, open bracket, x plus 5 over 4 all squared, plus 81 over 8. Okay? And then now, let's find out the turning point. So the turning point would just be the negative of the number inside the bracket, so that's negative 5 over 4, and just the value 81 over 8 outside. And is this a minimum maximum? Well, this is a negative x squared graph, which looks like this. So we're finding the maximum. Okay, so you should be able to see an exam question now, and feel free to pause the video to attempt this yourself, and then you can continue the video, and I will show you how to complete this question. So this question is from an exam paper, and it's out of 4 marks. And let's have a look at what it says here. So we have an equation, y equals x squared plus ax plus b. And it gives us coordinates that lies on this graph. So 0, minus 5, and 5, 0. And the question is asking for the turning point. So immediately when you hear about turning point, you should think about completing the square. And how do we complete the square? We've done that previously. So if you look at the equation that is given here, we need to find out what a and b is first. Okay? So it's actually fairly easy. You have the coordinates already, so you can solve for it. So let's say we use the first coordinate, 0, negative 5, and we substitute it into the equation. So then we have negative 5 equals 0 squared plus a times 0 plus b. So all of this cancels, the first two cancels, so b equals negative 5. Okay? And then to find a, well, we substitute the other equation in. So 0 equals 5 squared plus 5a. And then now we can substitute what b is. B is negative 5, so minus negative 5. And so if we do this, we have 0 equals 25 minus 5 is 20 plus 5a. And rearranging this, we get a equals minus 4. Okay, so now that we have this, we can rewrite our equation as y equals x squared minus 4x minus 5. And we're just completing the square of this one. So let's complete the square of this one. First step, put the bracket, put the squared, put the x, and then we have the coefficient of x, so that's x minus 2. Subtract that squared, and then minus 5 at the end. So we have x minus 2 squared, negative 2 squared, negative 5 is just negative 9. So therefore the turning point, which in this case is a minimum, would be to negative 9. And that's the answer to your question. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you stay tuned for the next videos.